Hey guys, I'm going to show you a creation kit tutorial. So this is the first part. It's the basics. It's just the basics. I know there's plenty of videos out there about that, but I figured if I'm going to do tutorials, I need to have a basics to reference. So, first one to go over was requirements. And, basically, your PC requirements. It depends on what you're doing. But basically you want, obviously, the best hardware. But what about the minimum? So this kind of game design, you want a fair amount of RAM. Let's see here. So I'm not doing anything, but I just have the creation kit open and it's using 5 gigs of RAM. Well, I mean, not the creation kit, but in general. Nothing else was really open but Chrome. I have 16. I have to upgrade to 32 soon for world creation reasons. Yeah. CPU, you want at least an i5 for basic stuff. i3 is just not going to cut it. You need to absolutely have a graphics card of some kind. I'd suggest at least like a 680 or a GTX 680 or 970 is like a minimum. I use a 1080. It's really, really handy. Monitor, that's another important one. I have a 27-inch 1440p display. This is really handy because this window here, the render window, it's just really nice to have a giant window to work with. So that's kind of the basic idea of modding. If you're just going to be making a mod that turns a weapon into a different ammo type, you can do that with a Pentium 4 processor, really. But the main idea I want to show in these tutorial series is cell creation, maybe some world creation, and questing. So, yeah, you can do some of this stuff without a GPU, but if you open up an actor, an NPC, without having a GPU, it's just going to crash the creation kit. So yeah, let's get into this. First things first, you need to load something in the creation kit. So we're just going to click this folder icon, and we want to at least have fallout4.esm double clicked. If you already have an ESP, which are any of these, you could double click it and hit set as active file. And then just hit OK. It'll load for a little bit because it's loading all of Fallout 4, and then we'll go from there. Alright, so let's talk about the windows. So the windows I have open take up the entire screen, obviously. We have object window here. We have our render window, our cell window, and in the background, our layers window. I keep it back here. It's handy to just have, and then you can just click on it and then hide it behind the other stuff when you need to. Also have the warnings window. It's minimized, sort of. I just shrunk it down. The reason why is by default it'll be like this big, and it's always going to tell you this kind of stuff. It's not necessary, really. It will be later on, but for now we're just going to hide it right here. But we don't want to close it, otherwise it'll just pop up again by itself. So let's go over the object window first. Right now I have typed words in here. Let's just remove that. So our categories are here. Pretty self-explanatory. We hardly really select anything unless I need something specific that I know there's going to be a ton of. For the most part, I just have it set to all. And then you would just type something, like how I had a hit floor in before. And don't worry, you'll get to know the wording and format of objects, or format of editor IDs, which are what these are. So you'll notice that they're in order when you type something in, like for example, except by default it isn't. You can tell by the notch up here that the caret, that it's sorted by form type. This is how I do it. I click editor ID, so it's in order by name. Then I click form type, and I do this like every time. Then you can get it to be in order and then by form type, so everything's exactly where you'd expect it to be. So this is pretty simple. All you have to do is like take an object and throw it in there over your render window. But we'll get into that in a minute. That's pretty much all you need to know about the object window. Next, let's go over to cell view. Once again, it's just something I keep in the corner. You can see all the cells, go to them if you need to by double clicking them. If you have not the best hardware in the world, I'd say make sure you have selected only checked. Otherwise, as you go around in cells, it'll try to load up every single thing in here. It just slows down your PC basically. So it's pretty simple. This right here allows you to select what world type you want to view. Interiors is default. Commonwealth, if you click that, it'll take a few seconds to load. Interiors, that's fine because we're working on an interior right now. Basically, if you want to go to a specific interior, like I want to go to Mason Cell, I would just type the letter M, and then it jumps right here. And this is where I want to be. You double click that, and now your render window will have it viewed. For the purpose of this video, I don't have anything in the cell, it's totally empty. But let's get into the render window. We need to first create a cell so that you can follow along. You want to click on world right here, then cells. It's going to load up everything. You want to make sure you're on the interiors drop down menu. Right click anywhere in here and click new. Name it whatever. Hit OK. Then in the cell view, find what you typed, double click it, and you're here. Emptiness, it's just black. So let's get started. I want you guys to type in hit floor in here. I'm assuming you're following along. Sort by editor ID, sort by form type. Now everything's in order. We are going to go with hit floor solid full 01. This is just a floor. Drag it in there. You got a top-down view. So what we need to go over is the key controls for manipulation of the camera and manipulation of the object, that of which is selected. Let's go over the camera first. So we have our object. Let's say we want to pan the camera but not move the object. You would hold spacebar and move the mouse. You don't have to click or anything. Now I'm moving around the object. Now we want to rotate around the object, that of which is selected, without moving the object. You want to hold shift for this. For the point of reference, I'm going to bring out another one of these. Just going to put that over there. I'll get into those controls in a minute. So we want to have a object selected that we'll want to rotate the camera around specifically, otherwise the camera won't really rotate around anything. So it's green, it's highlighted green. We're going to hold shift and move the mouse around. You don't have to worry about sticky keys popping up, it won't. It's pretty annoying that sometimes programs don't do that properly. So we're just moving around. You can switch off between space and shift, get to an angle that you like. I'm just going to go with this angle here. So we have that. Now we want to zoom in and out. That is just the scroll wheel. Zoom in, zoom out, zoom in. And gonna go back to a spot I like. So next we want to go over object controls. This will take using the camera as well. But for the most part, get to a camera angle you like, click and drag the object around. This will move it all around. It's free. It's not on any grid. Well, actually, I have it set to grid. I'll get to that in a second. It's just free. You can move it around wherever. Now let's say you want to spin it around. Well, actually, it would stick with just movement for now. So we have our free movement around, but that's not always entirely handy. We also want to be able to move it along a plane. You know, up, down, back and forth, forward and back. So this is where the hotkeys Z, X, and C come in handy. I don't know why it's yellow. It's supposed to be red. I probably did something I shouldn't have. Okay. Anyways, so what you want to do is hold one of the planes. Z means it goes up and down. It shows an arrow. You can hold Z down while holding shift to look around. Same with spacebar. You want to hold Z, click anywhere. It doesn't have to be on the object. You click and drag. It'll only go up and down on the plane. If you hold X, it'll only go back and forth. Hold C, it'll only go forward and back. This is dependent on your angle of viewing, I suppose. Alright. Next, what I want to do is drag another item onto this item, just so we can work with the object window again. So let's type in trash, edge specifically. Notice how it's out of order. Just click on order. Let's go with trash edge 01. Drag it straight on the object. You will notice that it will apply directly onto where you dropped it. Now let's bring it up with Z. Look around. Notice it's floating. Not necessarily handy at all. So what we're going to do is press F. This comes in handy if you want to, say, drop it down. Just drops it down to the next available option. Let's drag it over here, drop it down again. Now it's on this platform. Pretty handy stuff. So we have the object controls down for moving. Now let's talk about rotating. So all of the movement controls happen with the left click. All the rotation controls are the same except with the right click. So again, there's Z, X, and C for rotation, but the only difference we're going to be doing now is with the right click. Z is the default. You don't need it for rotating along this plane. X will rotate around like this. I guess if you want to put this on a wall, you put it like that. And then C will do it this direction. And again, it's all about your point of reference, I suppose. Getting it back is going to be difficult. So we now have this messed up object. Let's delete it. So make sure it's selected green and just hit delete on the keyboard. Let's drag a new one. Now let's say we have this piece and we want another. To duplicate it, we'll hit Control D. For the most part, it won't look any different, but you can just drag now and have a second one. Rotate it, whatever. That kind of thing. Now, so you want to deselect it. You don't want to have it selected anymore. You just press D. Pretty easy. So we've gone over movement keys, rotation keys, duplicating, deselecting, and deleting. Let's talk about fine-tuning. You need a pretty standard mouse for this. Basically, a mouse that has the keys on the left side to go forward and backward on a web page. You want to hold down one of those. We can really fine-tune it exactly where you want. Same with rotation. Whereas without it, it jumps a bit. Fine-tuning is extremely handy. Of course, it works with all the controls. So Control Z for undo, Control Y for redo. Standard. Every program does this. Easy. Deselect. So we have these two pieces. Yada. Now let's talk about the grid. Right now everything's just floating. It's not on a grid. This makes it hard to put items in line with each other. So I just duplicated this. You know, why bother trying to fine-tune this to be just right when all we have to do is click here. Snap to grid, and we're going to open up snap to angle as well. So right now these objects aren't on a grid, so all you have to do is move them a little bit and they immediately just attach to each other exactly as you'd want them to be. Same with these objects. Just attach them to the grid. Rotation is really handy. It puts it at 45-degree angle each way. Really handy stuff for when you're working with floors. You can select multiple objects by holding Control, as you'd expect, and then Control D. Move it over on a plane of your choice. It can be anywhere really. You can line them up here. One thing I just noticed that might not be on your screen is these green and blue markers. If you don't have this open, if that's not visible, press the letter M on the keyboard to disable, enable. This is handy for putting objects together. Not all objects have a marker, but these do. As you can tell, the trash doesn't have anything on it. So, let's say this grid isn't good enough for you. You want it like shorter or closer together, tighter. You can right click anywhere in the render window. You go to render window properties and click on movement. Snap to grid by default I think is around 32 or 64. That's big jumps, big grid in between each. Say this is the grid, right? That's like 64. I have it set to 8 so I can fine tune it while keeping it on the grid. So then it's like boom, 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 boom. Snap to angle 45 have that as default. And so you can customize this to your liking. When you're done, hit close. This will take a second to go away. And that concludes the basics, really. We have our camera controls, rotating around an object, and manipulation of an object with or without, yeah. We also created a cell, and pretty easy stuff. Yeah, that concludes this part of this first part of our series of Creation Kit tutorials. This is the basics. It will be referenced all kinds in future tutorials because a basic level of understanding is required for continuing and going on and doing whatever. I'm just creating a mess here. It doesn't really matter. So the next video, I believe, will be probably things that can make the creation kit crash, maybe. Or we might just create an actual cell, not this garbage here. So, yeah, catch you next time. Click below to subscribe, and click to your left to see more Fallout. Yeah. There's other mods and shit. There's a Facebook too, for Neeher mods. Check out the description below, I guess. And, yeah.